Hello, this is Lindsay Coyle, and we are doing episode 6 for Art of Enough. I just did an episode like literally 5 minutes ago because I cut it off at 20 minutes because it was a little, I had so lots to say. So we're just going to continue. So I was talking about mental health and I was talking about integrity. And that is going to follow this conversation. And I was talking about midlife crisis, which I am in the thick of. Next week, I am going to be 44 years old. And somebody asked me, what was your favorite, age? And I was like, today. And if I'm lucky, I'll turn 44. And there is nothing about my youth that I dislike. I loved it. But that was then. I have learned and done so much since then that why would that make it better or worse? I'm like, I get to be alive today. Today's great. So I'm taking my video from further back because I realized in one of the videos I talk with my hands so much and all you kept seeing was this like fingers all over. And I was like, so now you'll see the motions and it won't be so distracting. Okay. So where am I at here? Well, I said that something rocked me to my core on the last video and it never actually got to the point that I could actually describe what's occurring. So the book that I'm writing is called Art of Enough. And it's, my journey to accepting that I am enough. And as you hear so much of that in social media, like I am enough. We say it. But we act in ways that totally undermine that in so many ways. And to fully and thoroughly believe this, it is not lip service. It actually, you got to do way more work to get there, in my opinion, because I've been saying it for years and I've come a long way and I'm still not there. So, yeah, a thing that's kind of become apparent for me is that I've been saying I'm human. And even that is a huge step because I recognize, based on maybe my task list for the day, that I've made myself subhuman for everything that doesn't get checked off and superhuman for even having the flippant expectation that I could and should check all those boxes off because it's inhumane. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. And along the lines of integrity, I'm really starting to go, okay, life is a choice and choices have consequences. And I've made choices and I've, fallen on my face. I've learned what I've learned. I've done what I've done. I didn't do what I didn't do. And here I am. And I could make all that mean something, but it doesn't, because who I am today is a human being. I've got lots of titles, I'm partner, wife, mom, business owner, community connector, all these things. I made that one up, but yeah, that's what I gave myself as a title, and I am a community connector. And that's not who I am. I got asked this question to introduce yourself. Who are you? I'm like, that's a loaded question. So who am I? What do I stand for? Who am I? And I'm like, because I started going, well, I'm a wife. And I'm like, I'm more than a wife. And I'm a mom, and I'm more than a mom. And I'm all these different titles. And yet, if you strip me of every single one of those titles, I'm still here as long as I get to be on earth. So, who am I? Well, who I am is a human being struggling with what it means to be a human being, with a bunch of other human beings struggling with what it means to be a human being. And what we think being a human being means is different for every single one of us. How chaotic could that possibly get? Well, hello, 2020. So This last year with the pandemic, with having struggled with my mental health, with having reached out and got help, with taking this leadership program or integrity boot camp, I call it. There's a lot coming together. So, what's occurred over the last, well, my lifetime, but what's really like came to the surface, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's there, is I am an opinionated, I have biases, I fully believe in kindness and tact. Because yes, there's truth and there's facts out there. And delivered without tact or kindness is cruel. So who I am in the world is that I want to connect with human beings, all human beings. And I think the way that I worded it before was that I want to have compassion for all human beings without caveat. And that caveat was always, unless their opinion is infringing on human rights, and then in which case we are going to not be friends. And I was instantly, there was something there. And I was like, no, there can't be caveats. And so you'll have to bear with me because I am going to struggle through this because I'm a human being grappling with what it means to be a human being. And I really don't even understand what being a human being is. It's kind of evolving for me as we speak. But I recognize that how I felt and what my opinions were and are in certain groups would be shared in a way that I thought I could respect their ego and be kind and tactful, and I would hold back the truth of my opinion because I didn't have the opinion that they were big enough to handle it. So I made a judgment on a person or a group of people, which could be right, but who am I to make it? And if I make those judgment calls right and wrong all the time, and I choose who I'm going to be based on those assumptions, am I ever actually being myself? Am I ever actually saying what I think with kindness and tact and giving you the opportunity to be as big as I think you are? Because I keep telling people that you have power and that you can change the world. And yet I don't think you can handle an opinion if it's not like, sugar-coated and hand-delivered with a ribbon that smells of perfume so that you can actually palate it. No. So, over the last couple of weeks, I have been saying exactly what I think. And it's not a perfect delivery by any means. I am still learning. But I don't want to be right anymore. Like, the reason why I share my opinions that are contrary or not the same as everyone else is because I actually honestly believe them. And I think that we actually have to start having real conversations that have the good, the bad, and the ugly in it. Because if we're having conversation with half truths and half of the reality that you believe in and sugar-coated the other part, there's no progress there. There's no way for you to know where I stand. I want people to look at me and go, I may not agree with her, but I always know where she stands. That is a life of success for me. And I can say up to this point, I was asked, where do you stand? And I was like, I got to think about that. You think at 43 years old, you know what you stand for. And yes, I do. And is it like bomb-proof? Like, can I just tell anybody that I am pro-choice? I definitely had that, this is not the group of people that you can have that conversation with. Why? Because I don't think they're big enough. And when you are lonely in your opinion, instantly you think, I don't belong here. Like, they don't want to hear my opinion, and I shouldn't be here, and I don't belong here, and I'll have to go find people that agree with me. Is that what being human is? Is finding the people that agree with you and having that agreement about that the way that what you stand for is right and everybody else is wrong, and you don't have to belong there because you can belong here. And then I'm like, isn't that the source of all division? Is one person less human than the other based on their opinion? That's where I was talking about compassion. And compassion is a strong word because that's being able to see the humanity in a human. And that does not have anything to do with their opinions. So being able to see people as humans first, and then looking at their, opinions afterwards, that has opened up the space for me to find compassion. And when I extend that same thing that I look to do for others and give it to myself, then I can actually say what I think, how I think it, and try to be kind and tactful in the delivery and accept the consequences if maybe I was wrong. Oh well, it happens. Humans are wrong sometimes. And we have to make the space that if you're wrong, that you can learn and do better. If once you've done something wrong, you're a write-off, where do we go from there? If everyone that is of a, politically is partisan and they are blue and the others are red or orange or whatever, and that's the basis or your baseline of a good person is that they align with the same party as you. Where do we go from there? How wrong do we make other people in order for us to be right? And I'm like watching it. I was like, yes, I do have a left lean, definitely. And I've been listening more to the right, and it's hard to hear. And I could hear myself like, I don't want this to be right. I don't like that this might make sense. That's all there. It doesn't mean that I agree with everything, but nothing is all bad. Nothing is all good. Nothing is, perfect because it's comprised of humans. And there's one perfect human being on the face of this earth. So why would we think anything on this earth can be perfect? 43 years. We're getting there. Okay. So yesterday, I believe that I'm learning a lot more about racism. Do I know everything about it? No. I'm listening to people that are experiencing racism and what it looks like for them. And I had an experience yesterday in a group that was against racism, which I'm against racism. And I support Black Lives Matter. And I don't see how we're operating currently working. So what occurred was that it's like political and social kind of meat on this one. So our premier did a little bit of a shuffle and appointed a black minister or a black MLA as Minister of Justice. And it was commented on this group that that was this token appointment. And right there, I was like, how do we make progress if that's instantly? I'm like sitting there going like, I'm not conservative. I don't necessarily agree with all the policies. I don't necessarily even like the person that got appointed. And they got appointed a minister. Like, congratulations. That's awesome. And who are we to totally dismiss his, achievement there? I mean, he didn't get in there as, I don't know, like he is a lawyer. He works with immigration law. I am actually looking at him going, you know what? You have a lot of qualities that could be great. And a lot of people are willing to write him off just because he's United UPC, which it's a little worrisome. And I'm like, I have to give him a chance. And instantly what I saw was, I'm like, you know what? There are people of color, Black, Indigenous, and people of color that agree with Black Lives Matter and support it. And there are Blacks, Indigenous, and people of color that don't. And I guess what's there for me is, I'm like, if we're going to make this all about Black Lives Matter, but have a caveat that it only matters if you agree with them, that's a caveat. I'm like, wait a second. So not only are we talking about race, that we need to all support Black Lives Matter, but if you're of that race and possibly have been victim of racism, if you don't support Black Lives Matter, then it's like for and against kind of thing. And I was like, I don't get this. How can we, where's the space for progress in this? And get that I could be totally wrong. I don't know. I can't comprehend racism the way that somebody who's actually experienced the racism. So I am listening. And what's there for me is, I'm like, so do I only listen to people that believe in Black Lives Matter, or do I listen to people of color and Blacks and Indigenous that don't believe in Black Lives Matter, because they're still, their voices, do they still matter? Do you see we've made it into a dichotomy there? And I'm like, okay, I don't want to be right and be like, Black Lives Matter is the way to go. That's no longer what's there for me. I'm like, if equality and equity and dismantling a system is where we want to go, we have to have room. We have to make space for that to occur. And if we have to make people wrong in order to be right, that doesn't make sense to me. If we can fight for equality and those that are, experiencing violence and unnecessary deaths at the hands of excessive force in our police force, and we want justice for that, we have to want justice for all people, regardless of their beliefs. I still want to extend that equality to people that don't believe in Black Lives Matter. I mean, and they don't have to support it. Their opposition doesn't negate anyone's support. You see the struggle? So what occurred yesterday is that I voiced this, and I was pretty much like this isn't a agree to disagree when it comes to racism. And I was like, I get that. And this is division. And I don't think progress is going to be one based on sides. There actually has to be a coming together. And I just don't see it happening with this, good and bad, black and white. It's just that's not how it's going to come together in my eyes. And definitely I'm struggling because I'm like, do I have the right to have this view? And I'm like, I'm here. And I have this view. And I could share it or I could not share it. But it's a part of the conversation. And we ignore parts of the conversation to keep it like, everybody agrees, so we're just going to make it all better. And I'm like, I just don't know. So anyways, at one point I was like, thanks for trying to educate me on racism, white woman, while I'm a black woman. And I was like, and right there I was like, God, I don't even know if this is who I want to be. And it doesn't change my opinion. And so I'm like, okay, I get that I could be doing this completely wrong. I get that I support Black Lives Matter, and I think it has to be all Black Lives Matter and not just the ones that agree with you. And tokenism is a thing. Totally get it. And I don't know where you go from there if when you do appoint somebody that it can't be validated by, like by diminishing the person or their achievements, that it's nothing and we've reduced it to race. I'm like, how is that helping? So I get that tokenism is a thing, and I get that that very well could be what this is. And does it help? I don't think so. If you can't hire one person, Black, Indigenous, or people of color, how are you going to hire 2 and 3 if that's what progress looks like? Representation has to start. The whole idea of equality cannot be built on the basis that someone is less than human if they don't agree with you. This is the same thing for every issue out there when it comes to pro-choice and pro-life. I'm pro-choice, and yet I have no hate in me for pro-life. I'm like, you passionately believe in the life of a child. I'm not going to make that wrong. I couldn't. I can't see, how you choose to go about it, what happened in your life to make you believe that. Cool, you're a human. Determining what human means and operating in a world with other humans. We're doing the same thing. We're not all going to agree. So that's what's been there for me. And it's a lot. And it's been very eye-opening for me. And so I might be posting more than normal because things are happening. And I was like, whoa, that's a big thing. Let's like play with this and figure out what's going on here. And that's kind of what's been going on with me. So, I'm gonna end the video. I've got homework to do for my integrity boot camp, and it has to be done by Saturday. So, anyways, getting all that stuff done, and I'm good. I am getting closer and closer to I am enough. I'm human. I'm perfected and flawed and all that stuff. And I belong here simply because I am here. And when I get really, really clear my voice will not be quieted. Scary and exciting. Okay? Take care, guys. Bye.